self-respect. And we've probably heard this before, but it's this idea that I didn't realize, especially in my first marriage. I was like, I am respecting you. But I was so wrong. I was telling him what to do. I was criticizing what he was doing. I was saying you should, or we should, or we need to, or you need to. And that's just telling him what to do.
Hi everyone, welcome to Go All In show here. My name is Stant, I'm your host, and today I'm super excited to welcome my special friend and guest, Belah Rose, today in the house. Belah, thank you so much for your time.
Hi, thank you, Nim. I so appreciate it.
I mean, we knew each other for a few years back, and I love your podcast, and you have a book too, and you help so many women, but now you're also expanding your service, you offer your work to impact men. I mean, this is great. Thank you so much for doing all your work, Belah.
Oh, absolutely. It is a pleasure. It is a joy. I pinch myself every day. Like it's a dream. It's a dream to do this work.
That's right. Tell our audience a little bit, for those who don't know you, what do you do exactly, and tell us about your podcast too.
Sure. Yeah. So my podcast, Delight Your Marriage, is all over the world. It's really just incredible to help men and women understand how to love each other well. And so I've had the opportunity to help people that have been married decades become playful and passionate and excited to be together. And I just was interviewing someone yesterday. They were married 35 years, and they were thinking in January about how to celebrate their 35th year anniversary. And the wife was like, I don't like you. I'm not going to divorce you, but I don't like you. Oh. And yeah, I mean, can you imagine your spouse just looking at you like this is, and you could see on her face, she was a no nonsense kind of lady. Like she was not, I'm going to, tell you lies and, make you feel good about yourself. She was very like, matter of fact, and the husband decided to take my course without her knowing, actually, just 2.5 months ago. And things have transformed so much so just by him doing the work that they're looking at each other on this interview crying with joy. And they had this big, beautiful anniversary present between the two of them. This special, celebration. She wore her wedding dress again, and they just are in love. It's incredible. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, how is it that I get to do this work every day? It's awesome.
But tell us a little bit about like your backstory though. Like how can this idea come up of, because we have divorce coach, we have matchmaker coach, whatever it is, right? But you are the only one that I knew actually who work like in the marriage, which is the most important part too. I mean, yes, divorce, healing also important, finding the soulmate also important, but when we're in it, so how did this idea get started?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like a lot of us, we all have stories, and there's a lot of suffering in all of our stories, or can be. And that was the biggest suffering for me. Was I was married young, and unfortunately I just didn't know. I just didn't understand him. I just didn't get it. I didn't get what makes him tick, what makes him feel loved. And he didn't get me. He didn't understand what makes me feel loved. And so we're both at each other's necks trying to get our own desires met, our own needs met, and getting to a place that ultimately we just kind of imploded on itself, and I hurt him, he hurt me, and it just didn't work. So I learned a lot. I went through a lot of more suffering and took a lot of courses and books and all this stuff. I was just passionate. I was hungry. I was like, this can't happen again. I'm not okay with this. I never had good role models of what it meant to do intimacy and marriage well. And if you think about in our movies and stuff, there's just not good role models, because that's not exciting. It's not exciting to watch people resolve conflict maturely. It's exciting to watch people throw things around the kitchen. And so no one has good role models. So anyway, so when I got remarried and really shifted a lot of things, got some really good mentors around me, I was able to, grow and decide people need to be talking about this more.
Yeah.
They need to be talking about sex more. And that's a huge part of my work, is encouraging generous, consistent variety, pleasurable for him and for her, intimacy inside of a marriage, because that's the glue.
We'll touch base about that. So now you help both men and women. How do you think the male, like what's in their mind when they like sign up to work with female coach to help for the intimacy? Like I'm just fascinating to know about that.
Absolutely. So originally I started this work because I was like, women need to know that they need to be able to make love to their husband. They need to know how, and they need to know, all the practicals without having to go into the gross, darkness of craziness.
Yeah.
But a mature woman, I follow Jesus, so that, in that kind of mindset, but people who are Muslim or non-faith, whatever, if they don't want to go to the ick, they kind of come to my material quite a lot. So anyway, I originally was like, this is just for women. I just need to encourage women in sex. My book is called To Let Your Husband. It's very practically teaching women about oral sex. And so for him. And so then when I was doing my podcast, I was always talking to women about the realities of men and the sexual needs and desires of him and how his mind works. But then I got so many men reach out to me and like, how do I get my wife to listen to you?
Good. Oh, really? How do I get my wife to listen to you? Okay.
Constantly. They're like, first of all, I don't know how you figured this stuff out, because you're articulating things that I didn't even know as a man I could articulate about myself. Those are the kind of things that they would say. And then I was like, I don't know. Figure it out. I'm just going to talk to ladies because I have no idea how to help you gentlemen. But then I started actually talking to them. And then it was like, oh, you've got a lot of gaps. You don't understand your wife. No wonder she's not interested in sex.
Oh.
So then it became clear that, yes, I could help the husbands. And it was a few years ago now, that I started running groups specifically for men and one-on-one, but mostly I'm really loving doing the groups. The transformations are just incredible. So often it's, a husband they've had a sexless marriage for one is coming to mind, 38 years sexless marriage. He did the course. She didn't know about it. She started initiating lovemaking. And it's because he changed who he is. He changed at his core.
So let me go back a little bit. How can we be intimacy, have that intimacy, if we don't even go to the sex world relationship yet, but in the daily basis, because if he doesn't speak nice to me, I do not want it either. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So how can both men and women practice that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I call it the intimacy framework. And so basically I try to dumb it down as much as possible to the three things she needs to feel fulfilled in marriage, a long-term marriage, and the three things he needs to feel fulfilled in a long-term marriage. And so the first thing for her is to be known. And so it's this idea of you are married to this incredible woman, just amazing woman with unique qualities, unique strengths, unique passions and likes and dislikes and desires and her mindset and her characteristics. She wants to be known. She wants him to care about her heart. So that's the first one. The second one is safe. Now, yes, that's physical safety, but it's emotional safety. That she's not going to be judged or ridiculed or criticized. And that translates to the bedroom. Sex is very vulnerable. If she feels like you're judging her or you're mean, or like you said, Nim, you're unkind, then she's not going to be interested. she's
Right.
not going to be interested in making love to a jerk. So,
Right. Yeah. Someone that hurt her feeling during the day, but at night want to make love, right?
no, not interested. Sorry. Not in a long-term marriage. Like maybe something like that worked, makeup sex worked when you were dating or whatever, but long-term marriages require being known, safe, and the last one, wholeheartedly cherished. And that's the romance. That's the dates. Those are the surprises, the little cute messages that she wasn't expecting, those sorts of things where she knows it's your heart. Wholeheartedly means that you're not on your phone while you're out on the date. You're not annoyed when you try to do something special for her. I mean, it's got to be from your heart.
Wow. I mean, seems like a basic stuff.
It seems like it, right? As a woman, it seems super basic, like obviously.
But yet it's so hard to make it happen.
Yes.
What about men? What is the 3 things for men that women need to know too? Because it's not always his fault; it's our fault too, right?
That's right. So it's so important. Like when I work with women, they've got to get this for their husbands to respond to do all those things. So the first one is respect. And we've probably heard this before, but it's this idea that I didn't realize, especially in my first marriage. I was like, I am respecting you. But I was so wrong. I was telling him what to do. I was criticizing what he was doing. I was saying you should, or we should, or we need to, or you need to. And that's just telling him what to do. That's a covert we need to is actually saying you need to, which is me commanding him like I'm his mom. And being his mom is not sexy. It's not attractive. He's not going to be motivated to care if the wife is acting like his mom. And I have been guilty of that plenty of times. Also, having arguments in public places, super non-respectful, and things I did. So I was a mess in this regard, definitely. Correcting him in public, all those things breed disrespect, and they really affect a man. So the second piece is admiration. And so that's kind of like where you get the football player and the cheerleader. Like he actually really, that's just a natural desire for a man to be admired by his wife. And it's not this male flimsy ego that we pretend it is as women all the time. The problem with that perspective of a husband is that it's like women don't care about being attractive. And that's just not true. We want to be attractive. That's a core part of ourselves. And we shouldn't think that his desire to be admired as this great guy who's got great strengths and he's killing it in whatever areas of life he's in, we get to be that cheerleader. That's just our opportunity as his wife. And it hurts him if we're not.
Wow.
So then the third thing is wholehearted sexual intimacy. So she wants to be there. She desires it. She enjoys her own pleasure in it. Sex is visually exciting. It's got variety. It's fierce, but it also can be slow and meditative. It's got it all. And she's got to be wholehearted in that as well.
Wow, Belah, I just love you and just love the way you explain. And your face is just like light up and joyful. And again, this is the topic that we don't talk about. Our mom or our dad, they still figure it out.
Right.
and then like I seriously like have no idea how to teach my kids about that too.
Got it.
So Belah, if you can go back to tell your younger self at your first marriage, what would you say knowing what you know? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so much. I mean, we would have hours and hours of conversations. But no, let me think about something to dumb it down. I think I would teach her the intimacy framework that I just went over. I think I would say, if assuming, okay, just to make sure I understand, is the point that I would be trying to change my marriage into a fulfilling marriage, or would I be trying to
No, she doesn't have to be in that
Okay.
marriage, right?
Okay.
But knowing what you know now, like what would you tell her at that time? Because I believe when you've gone through that fight or argument in your first marriage, you probably cry a lot, and in the dark night of the soul,
Mhm.
right? Like, what would you tell her?
Yeah. I would tell her it's worth it. I would say it's worth it. Every bit of suffering, every bit of
Mm,
tears and difficulty, there was a reason, because
huh,
I would not be able to do this work
without
ever if I didn't go
experience,
through it.
right? How many years ago?
A good amount. A good
Wow.
amount. Yeah,
So
it was a
now,
while.
now that
But
you,
it
sorry,
yeah,
now that you connect the dot,
yeah,
and you understood why you got to go through it.
yeah,
You have,
exactly.
I mean, you have amazing work ahead of you,
Thank
helping
you.
so many couples. Not just husband or wife. This is amazing. Um, Tell us a little bit about um, your book, right? Like you mentioned it's about oral sex, right? Like
Mhm.
what inspired you to write in that topic, and how is that impact the intimacy in marriage?
Yeah, totally. Well, it was the book that definitely originally the topic would make me cringe the worst. And for the most part, like it is not a calling card that women easily forget, or men. When they hear I wrote that book, they're like, "Oh, okay." Not asking any more questions. Or they ask a lot of questions. It's one or the other.
Right.
Um Yeah, it was the one that I just felt humiliated. The thought of it humiliated me. And I never saw a resource that didn't make me, want to run the other direction.
Yeah.
And specifically for Christians, I just felt like I didn't know how to bridge that gap. Like, was this activity and the whole mindset around fierce sexuality, was that godly? Was it okay? All of that stuff. I was raised in a very conservative home, and like you said, Nim, no conversation about sex. It was figure it out yourself. Don't tell me anything about whatever could be happening. Just nothing. Which is like a lot of us, right? And so I had to learn the hard way. After my first marriage, I was a virgin. My first marriage, lots of pain and sadness around not knowing anything.
Mm.
Um, and then being outside of that marriage and deciding I'm not gonna care anymore. I'm gonna figure out sex on my own. So very promiscuous, and got my heart broken, because sex is a heart connection. There's no denying it. But I really did understand the way men think and how important sex is, and how vital it is. And then when I got I started dating my now husband, when I understood it lights him up in a way that it's undeniable how powerful sex is for men. It's just undeniable. And when we look at life through that lens, it all makes sense. It's like, oh, no wonder the bikini models are always women, because sex actually matters to men far more than it matters to women. I don't want to see a man all dressed up in no clothes all the time. I'm just like, no, put your clothes on, go somewhere.
Mm.
And men catcalling, and men are the sexual predators, and men are, it's really like, the more I work with men, the more I'm like, I get their unfiltered every single day of the week. They are just, it is so vital to their hearts. They get depressed, they get anxious, like literally oxytocin is released in their brains when they orgasm. But for women, it's when we have a really good heart-to-heart connection with a friend, when we have a hug, when we smell a baby's head, we get oxytocin released. But men don't have that. So anyway, so this book was my desire to help women have a totally different understanding of sex for their husband and have the practicals. So it was twofold. And that was the embarrassing work I started out with, and it was important and good, and people still
Hey,
buy it. So
it's turned out very good. Are they gonna be the second book?
Yes, I will at some point get, I'm so focused on courses right now, but at some point I will get a book for men because men need it, and I will at some point.
Right. Well, I feel like you've been doing research and you have such a knowledge and wisdom about it. So I mean, please share to help the marriage.
Yeah.
This is not a bad thing. We should talk about it in the healthy way. Know have that knowledge rather than just go out and go crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
then, what would you suggest though for the younger generation? About sex, not even talking about marriage, but about sex. Like like what
Yeah.
direction should they go? I don't know.
Yeah. So I encourage actually talking about sex early in a kid's life, like even as young as 5.
Really?
Yeah, but in really small doses. So basically, there's never the talk, quote unquote. There is a
Yeah.
series of conversations that happen throughout their lives. So it might start out with very basic, boys have penises, girls have vaginas. And, when I'm trying to think of how old, I think he was 6 when I took my older son and showed him some illustrations of the penis, like a very medical kind of illustration. And I started out with the conversation of what's inside your head. And I touched his head and he said, my brain. I said, yes, that's right. What's inside your heart? Or what's inside right here, your chest? And he said, my heart. I said, that's right. And right here on this illustration, that's what's inside your penis. And he was like, really? It's like, yes, that's what's inside. And he was so excited. I said, and in this area, and I'm pointing on the illustration, that's where the semen is made. And what happens is the semen goes into the vagina and then a baby comes right in this area. And so I just made it. And he was like, that is so cool. And so, yeah, I'm hyperventilating on the inside, but because I never had that modeled for me, but he was so excited. And then, his attention span, like 10 seconds later, he runs around and goes and plays Legos. Yeah. But it's a series of conversations because I want every step of the way when he hears a word at school, him to come to me and ask what it is. When he sees something, I live in New York City, so he sees someone do something and whatever, I want him to talk to me about it. If his body does something that's like, oh my gosh, Mom, what happened? I want to tell him what I know about it. I don't want him to search on Google. I don't want him to go to his friends,
Right. That's so right. How old is he right now?
He is 8.
He is 8.
Yeah.
Awesome. A series of conversation, not just one time, or try to ignore the equation.
Yeah, that's right.
It's good advice for the parent.
Yeah. The other important advice that I got from someone else is that your kids are not actually weirded out by it. We're the ones that bring awkwardness to the conversation because we're kind of scared about what to say. But they're not. They're just innocently curious. And if we can present sex as something that doesn't require shame. The other thing I have found super, super helpful is for parents to talk about sex as an act of love. So when they say, like, even if, my ethic is I hope people will wait till a lifelong commitment to get married. But even if that's not, if you just frame sex as this is what someone does when they love the other person and they want to care about them in this way. Like if, but I want you to wait until you are sure that you really, really love them and they really, really love you, and that's kind of the way the conversation happens.
Right. This is so helpful. So, you mentioned about your program for men. This is the project that is going on right now. How can our audience find you? Because I know as an entrepreneur, seriously, we're not just gonna focus on business and making money and success, but personal life is the most important part of our life, actually. How can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I have a free masterclass coming up for men. And it's pre-recorded, but it's only available for a short amount of time. And the last time I opened this several months ago, the men kind of raved about it, and some of them have been on the list for months waiting for it, and they blocked it in their calendar and all that. So I don't know if you're going to release this before July 19th, but that's when the next one's coming out. So
Okay.
if you do, no pressure, Nim, if not.
I'm thinking of the timeline. There's a possibility.
Okay, well, if not, no problem.
When is the masterclass?
July 19th.
July 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And we're going to share the link in the description.
Yeah, they can just go to delightyourmarriage.com/masterclass.
Okay.
And if they're a man, sign right up, click husband. And if they're a wife, you can click wife, and I'll take you on some other resources that'll be helpful to you as well.
Awesome. Wow, Belah, thank you so much for being here with us. I mean, this is super fun and very, very important conversation. Seriously, very important. So would love to see you again in our show next time. And for right now, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nim. This was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.